True form, full power Sukuna has reincarnated, crazy details about Sukuna's backstory have been revealed, Kashino's insane power and curse technique has also been revealed, and the answer to whether Gojo comes back that's on everyone's mind, it's all in this crazy chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Smash that like button if you enjoyed Jujutsu Kaisen reviews like this one and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the special grade fan by subscribing if you haven't already. You have the power to help us reach our insane dream of 2 million subscribers on YouTube with just one click of a button. And now, without further ado, let's jump into chapter 237, spoilers and all. So the last chapter was just the most insane of any chapter up to that point. Although I did keep saying that Gojo would have to lose the battle for the story, the whiplash was crazy between chapters. We went from a panel saying Gojo won to the next chapter being Gojo's final moments after Sukuna defeated him. Not only that, we sometimes criticize Sukuna for needing Megumi's body and Mahoraga to win, but Gojo does the opposite. He says Sukuna didn't even go all out, hyping up what's gonna happen this chapter. He says he's not sure if he could have beaten Sukuna even if Sukuna didn't have Megumi's 10 shadows. He goes on to empathize for Sukuna's sheer solitude because of what it feels like to be the strongest. While Gojo is content since he was able to give it his all for once, he feels sorry that he wasn't strong enough so that Sukuna could give it his all too. Insane to finally hear words like this from Gojo's mouth. Absolutely insane. Hajime Kashimo, known as the God of Lightning, is the one who jumps into the ring next to take on Sukuna. He's a sorcerer from 400 years ago who has been brought back by Kenjaku, but since he's itching to fight Sukuna, that was potentially a big mistake, depending on how well he does. And I do love how this antagonist became pretty much an ally based on his goals, although in all honesty, it's hard to picture anyone defeating Sukuna after even Gojo admitted that he was outclassed, especially since he's about to get way stronger as we're about to see. All that we could have hoped for is that the accumulated exhaustion and damage added up to Sukuna, and that gives the ones who come after a better chance. So Kashimo enters, and after all these chapters, we got a new player joining the battlefield. We also see a massive lump of ice, more like an iceberg, in the air, and Sukuna's subordinate Uraume is standing on top of it. That'll actually be such an awesome scene when animated with the falling iceberg. I can already picture it. Sukuna's subordinate finally seems to be joining the battle. However, Hakari shows up to challenge Uraume, so that Kashimo can just focus on Sukuna as he wished. Since Kashimo's whole thing is fighting strong opponents and he was bored with his previous life because he fought boring and unsatisfying battles, he'll either beat Sukuna, hard to picture though, or at least die satisfied like Gojo for being able to give it his all for once. Back to Hakari, and he says he made a promise so he can't let Uraume live. Hakari opens domain expansion and Uraume activates ice formation against him. Uraume is caught within Hakari's domain, but the iceberg continues to fall. It suddenly melts though, and the downpour of rain is such a cool visual. You know the illustrations are good when you just can't wait to see it animated. And I have that feeling all the time when reading Jujutsu Kaisen chapters. Kashimo notices that the giant iceberg was just there to deliver something to Sukuna. Talk about being overly theatrical, but not gonna lie, it was still cool. It's revealed that the thing delivered to Sukuna was the cursed weapon which the Sukuna-obsessed Yorozu constructed in exchange for a binding vow of death. The cursed tool is called Kamutoke. Shockingly, Sukuna launches an electric attack on Kashimo with his cursed tool, and says it reminds him of good old times. But remember, his opponent is called the God of Lightning, and so of course Kashimo's cursed energy has made him resistant to electricity. It's almost like they just threw that scene in to hype up Kashimo a bit, but crazy to see Sukuna's first attack against the God of Lightning being electricity. Kashimo then questions Sukuna saying, "Did you become the strongest, or were you born as the strongest?" End quote. An interesting question, and I always appreciate Sukuna backstory details. Seeing him as he is now, we want to think that he was always a beast, but that's not necessarily the case. Sukuna though doesn't give us a clear answer, simply saying that he doesn't know because he was an unwanted child. And the manga is doing some humanizing of Sukuna lately. We saw him pay respect to Gojo, saying he'll never forget him as long as he lives, and now we're learning he had a tragic backstory where no one wanted him. And even Sukuna must have been cute as a baby, so that is just sad. I'm enjoying seeing this more human side of Sukuna, I must say. Even Gojo thanked him for a great fight and wasn't at all worried about, hey, this dude might destroy the earth and all the people I care about. It's almost like they were closer to friends than enemies by the end of it. And part of that was, as we're about to get into again, the fact that these characters share the solitude, or perhaps curse if you want to call it that, of being the strongest. Kashimo has it too, and asks how did Sukuna interact with other people when he didn't know weakness? How could he show no affection or mercy. He asks because for Kashimo, he couldn't do it. He saw all other humans as pieces of dirt, far beneath him. Kind of like how the King of Curses Sukuna saw everyone before Gojo humbled him a bit by putting forth such a good effort. Kashimo asks Sukuna to teach him if strength is to be alone, and he seems to want to find a place to properly show his powers. And if he's facing Sukuna, I think he's come to the right place. He asks if being alone is the punishment of the strong, and this kind of rhetoric probably sounds familiar, right? Even Sukuna notices the similarities and says that Kashimo is extravagant like Gojo. And Kashimo and Gojo did struggle with the same ideas, but Sukuna is more mysterious, and I can't wait to see more about his inner thoughts and full backstory. I'm sure there's even more humanizing stuff there that he doesn't want to reveal. Perhaps the mind-blowing surprise will be that he wasn't always the strongest and so knows what it's like not to be. Not sure, but either way, can't wait for more and more info on his backstory to be leaked. I love this upcoming part. Sukuna then taps his head with the weapon and calls upon Kashimo to fight him. Pretty much, the dude is saying, enough talk, we gonna do this or what? Meanwhile, Hakari's domain is just chilling overhead. I'm not complaining since this is the main fight and I wouldn't want to cut to these other guys at the cost of watching this fight, but it's something to keep an eye on. The two could fall from the sky at any point with the winner revealed. Kashimo then runs in to attack as the fight between the two officially begins. And as us shonen veterans know, it makes sense for a god of lightning to be fast, and Kashimo clearly is. Sukuna blocks one attack, but then Kashimo moves back and activates his curse technique Genju Kohasaku, which roughly translates to Phantom Beast Amber. And as we're about to get into, that's a good name for it, especially because this dude does look like a beast right now. Whited out eyes, menacing face, he's in Broly mode right now, and even Sukuna shows concern on his face. Kashimo proves he ain't no slouch and lands such a satisfying punch on Sukuna. I gotta give it to this mangaka, he knows how to draw a satisfying punch. Then Kashimo loads a breath type attack and blasts it at Sukuna, while completely deforming his, meaning Kashimo's face in the process. The narrator explains that Kashimo's curse technique remakes his body to be able to blast any kind of attack which Kashimo can make from his cursed energy. This is trippy to see since the human body obviously shouldn't be able to move like this and do these kinds of things. He can launch attacks from his hand, from his mouth, and then as Sukuna dodges one attack, he gets punched again. You don't know if Kashimo is going to punch or blast you, and it's clearly hard to react. His curse technique enhances his agility, so surprise surprise, the god of lightning is fast and agile. Furthermore, we're told the waves he blasts evaporates anything which gets touched. Very overpowered from the sounds of it, and even someone like Sukuna should be careful. And I gotta hand it to the mangaka again, Kashimo did not disappoint. Now that he's out of the Gojo vs Sukuna shadow, he is a joy to watch. But as I mentioned, there is an issue. Kashimo surpasses what the human body is capable of to make all of this happen. And so, once his curse technique ends, we're told Kashimo's body will break down. So it's one of those classic situations in shonen where a character is putting so much strain on their body to be strong at the moment, and it's drastically shortening their lifespan. Kashimo is pretty much just burning away his life force right now. And so, it shows that Kashimo knows he has no choice but to go all out right now. The really cool stuff about this is it keeps things fast-paced and interesting, and I gotta say, I love how this form looks as well. Kashimo seems to be in the lead right now because he's obviously setting the tempo, but as we know in this show, things can turn around 180 very quickly, and boy does it. This lead does not last long at all before we get the craziest twist. So we might be thinking, yeah, maybe if this overpowered sorcerer sacrifices his life to gain extraordinary power for a short period of time, he can maybe overcome a Gojo injured Sukuna that's weaker than before, but then the narrator just goes crazy with the wildest reveal. The narrator begins to explain that Sukuna had a method of reviving his original body only once without using reverse curse technique, but Sukuna had intentionally halted it. Why he'd do that, we won't get into here. There could be a wide variety of reasons and it could be explained next chapter, but we'll just enjoy the hype that he's not halting it anymore. We see his former glorious and full power four-armed form return in the present. The narrator says the transformation of reincarnation has been restarted. So yes, after beating Gojo, Sukuna is getting stronger, not weaker. Earlier, our characters were right to assume that Sukuna had an ace in the hole that he wasn't showing Gojo, and Gojo was right also to assume that Sukuna wasn't giving it his all in their fight. It's just so crazy to think about, but it's true. And many people are saying that Gojo might come back, being reborn or something, finding some kind of loophole to bring him back, but it doesn't look that way. And honestly, the last chapter made Gojo pass away with pretty much no regrets, so I don't think he would have gotten so much closure if he was gonna just come back next chapter. It would be crazy. And not the good kind of crazy. The story unfortunately needed him to lose no matter how much we love his character, and honestly, although it's hard to live up to the hype of Gojo versus Sukuna, props to Kashimo, he's doing a great job so far. I'm already invested into this fight, and it did not take long. But let me know your thoughts on this chapter. Will Gojo ever come back? Does Kashimo have a chance? And if not, who can possibly stop a Sukuna more powerful than the one that defeated Gojo? This is just amazing stuff right here, and I can't wait to find out. If you love strong characters like Sukuna Kashimo, then you definitely won't want to miss my all special grade sorcerers explained video on screen right now. Like and subscribe to help us achieve our insane goal of 2 million subscribers on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.